Joining me today in the studio is Audrey Mothupi, who is head of inclusive banking at Standard Bank. Now, you may wonder to yourself, what the heck is inclusive banking? I asked the same question, so let's get the answer. What do you actually do, Audrey?
Jeremy, I actually have the best job in the world.
Oh, really?
I do, because with Standard Bank, basically I look after a business that banks 7 million of the 10 million Standard Bank customers. And it's basically the main market. It's, I always describe it as inclusive banking is about the nurse, the teacher, the man in the blue overalls, the lady sitting in the taxi, the lady in the queue in the checkers and pick and pay. It's the guard that's coming home from after working all night on their way home. And it's really bringing banking and making banking easier for them and giving them the full financial solution as you would as a private client earning 3 million rand. So I've got the masses, and I've got to put a smile on the masses, and I've got to think differently about what they need, and I love it because it's about us, it's about South Africa.
Okay, but now you are dealing, am I right in saying you're dealing mainly with stokvels?
Actually, that's one component of the product. So inclusive banking is basically the full offering. So you've got a transactional product, savings, and you've got affordable housing. So it's end-to-end banking. It's a complete banking offering for that market. And within that, savings is key. And when you look at stokvels are not actually a banking instrument. Stokvels have been around way before you and I. And it's a form of saving. It's a different financial instrument, which I guess my fascination with stokvels arose from the fact of questioning and saying, what's the need in that market? We talk about, do we save, do we not save? So stokvels is finding a way to bring that into the formal sector and saying, you are saving, so let's make you save even more. Let's help you create a bonus as you save with us.
Now, and this is very embarrassing because I don't think I've ever had to do this before, so stop laughing, please. And if any of the camera crew start laughing, I'm going to get out of my chair and slap you, but I have to put on glasses for this. We just had National Savings Month just a while back.
We did.
And the message going out there was South Africans need to save.
Yes.
But you look at the numbers, there are evidently, according to African Response Research, 350 savings stokvels with a membership of 5.4 million people, saving about 25.41 billion rand annually.
It's true. And even more shocking, if you look at that research, it says that in South Africa, there's probably about 44 billion worth of savings in form of stokvels. And they come in different forms. And I know you're looking shocked because it's 25 billion. So 25 billion could really shift our economy, but it's 25 billion that's circulating in a financial instrument that we haven't really paid that much attention to. And we're all starting to look into it. So when I look at what we're doing at Standard Bank, the savings products we're bringing on board, we spend a lot of time in the market doing the research to say, what are the needs of this market? As opposed to, how do I now create the product for this market? So the stokvels, most people will tell you, and if you had people calling in, they'll say to you, well, my aunt did it. And the funny thing, Jeremy, is that it's not one. You'll find an individual who has multiple stokvels because it's almost as though they segment their spend. Right. So I save to go on holiday, or I save for those amazing AMC pots. I hope you understand those pots. Or I save for linen, beautiful linen. Or I save because actually I'm part of a burial society, so I'm saving because of the extended family concept. I need to make sure, in addition to my funeral product, that I'm part of a burial society. So you start getting into the lives of our customers and understanding more how their needs are managed, as opposed to creating products that determine or question how they actually manage their lives. So stokvels, the research was fascinating for me, list of all the shock around the billions that are circulating, but more so around the fact that it's a definition of saving. So if you ask me from a banking point of view what I'm doing differently, I would argue that we're starting to look at that as a financial instrument for this market. I
want to get onto that in just a moment because I want to see where banks are in relation to this dynamic. Yes. But it extends down to, if you look at the various types of stokvels around, it goes right down. You've mentioned burials and you've mentioned savings, but it goes right down to groceries. I think the number was something close to 5 billion rand a year is invested into stokvels for buying groceries in bulk. Now, any of the retailers in this country would want to snap up that 5 billion rand to try and enter that market or control that part of the market. Are we generally, from a business point of view, not in tune with the needs of the vast majority of the population of this country. Do we think that just because you build a store on the corner of a street, you're going to attract customers? Shouldn't we be thinking out of the box and how we get into those communities?
And you know, it's music to my ears. The reality is we are sometimes far removed from the consumer, and you're right. So if you think about even us as banks, how we reached our consumers, we forced them to come to us, come to the branch. Yeah. And if you look at what we've done in this market, we've partnered, we've got what we call access points, which is banks in the community partnering with a spazo shop owner. Yeah. And there you're rebuilding the trust, because you're saying, actually, I can walk out of my home instead of taking a taxi, because the research said a majority of South Africans, majority of my customers live between 40 and 50 kilometers from the next branch. It means they spend on average 20 to 30 rand to get to the branch. Yeah. If I can walk to my spazo shop, to Sarah's place, and if I can go and transact at Sarah's place, so Sarah now becomes the bank. So you're rebuilding that trust in the community. So you're right in using the billions spent, for example, on groceries for food. There's no reason why the big retailers, the Checkers, the Pick and Pays, can't understand the market more to say, how do we now attract? How do we, when we see the lady walking in with her doek and her blanket wrapped around, for all we know, she could be the chairperson of a stokvel walking in actually in November for major Christmas buy with hundreds of thousands, will probably buy a lot more than you expected her to, but on the basis of our analysis of who the consumer is and the small retailer definition, we've missed her. We've missed the opportunity to leverage that relationship with her. We've missed the opportunity to build a loyalty. We've missed the opportunity to cross-sell other products onto her. So you're absolutely right. And I think when I say I have the best job ever, is because we're starting to think less like a bank. In the business that I'm privileged to look after, is the minute we start thinking as a bank, we're going to actually lose sight of the opportunities such as stokvels, the opportunities such as the needs of the customer. Because you're not thinking around the need of the consumer, you're thinking about what I can do for you. It's that whole, I've arrived, I'll tell you. I mean, you look like a banker today, Jeremy.
Well, I thought I needed to dress up for somebody as glamorous as you.
Yeah, so you'll miss the customer if you look like a banker. You have to start looking and feeling like the customer.
Okay. You said something, I just wanted to go, hallelujah. You said, we've got to stop thinking like bankers. Yes. I am in love with you. No, really.
You have the best job, I can tell you that.
I absolutely have got to agree with that, because we've been stuck in this mode where, in my humble opinion, and I don't want to get you into trouble, I don't want you to get back to the office next week and everyone turns around and goes, oh, well, that was very interesting what we heard on CNBC. But we have been creating instruments that bankers think are appropriate for their customers, as opposed to going to the customers and saying, what do you need?
Yeah. And you're right. And I think the reason why I probably wouldn't even get into trouble, because part of the job that I have with the majority of customers is to think differently around the needs of the customer. Mm-hmm. And a simple example, we did research. So the Africa Response research on stokvels, we launched a savings product about 6 to 8 months ago. We were told in this market they won't save. So we decided to go out, and at the time we were very fortunate because we're partnering as part of a project with the Gates Foundation. We got a team called MicroSave to help us do the research. And what the customers were saying is, you know what, I actually don't mind paying, but tell me what I'm paying for. So simplify your pricing, simplify your processes. The second thing they said, you know, we like to save, but make it difficult for me. If I'm walking towards a shebeen and I feel the need to go and help spend the money I earned with the boys that I've put in the savings account, let me know that I can't do that. So, for example, the savings product, based on listening to our customers, has a 7-day notice period. And it's not us saying we're going to keep your money and only give it to you in 7 days' time. It's because somebody's saying, I want to save, but make it a little bit harder for me. Not a full month, because there might be an emergency, and if I have to take it instantly out, I know I can pay a penalty. The second thing they said that was fascinating is don't come with a jargon, at least in my market. When you talk interest, what do you mean? You know, is it a bonus? Am I getting a cash bonus? So now what we do, we say, instead of adding you 1% or 2% interest, we say, if you keep the money with us for a period of 3 months, you will get a bonus out of it. So even the language we use, Jeremy, is, I mean, even to you and me sometimes, you know, we nod our heads and we think we understand it, but there's a lot of jargon out there, and it's not only in banking. And simplification is as complex as stopping to understand the need of the customer. And that's really the stokvels. I love this data, because all it's telling us is that while we're busy doing other things, There's an underworld, there's a money, there's a capital, there's a money that's circulating, whether it's informally or formally. People are managing their lives financially without us. So we've got to find a way to be relevant, to trap those billions in and make it relevant.
Yeah, we think that the government and business is running the country, but there's a whole undercurrent that's just, regardless of business or the government, they're just getting on with their lives and they're just running their lives.
Absolutely.
Another interesting thing you raised, and I want to come back to it because to me it's vitally important as well, is the example you gave of putting an access point in at Sarah's Spaza shop.
Correct.
People tend, sociologically, they tend to trust people that they know.
Yes.
So your Spaza shop owner is just not the owner of the Spaza shop, they're actually a friend of yours.
Absolutely.
So what they offer is through that friendship, it's trustworthy.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge mindset change.
It is. And if you look at our access points of 7,000, it is Sarah, it is Sydney, who people have known and have watched them grow. I can do my cash transfer, money transfer. So we have basically enabled them as bankers. They've got a machine, a credit device, like credit machine.
Yeah.
I can actually send and receive money. We've got examples of customers who call Sarah and they're on the way taking a taxi from Soweto, from Pretoria, and they say to her, my child's coming to fetch milk and bread, but I'll transfer the money now. So Sarah knows who the children are. She'll give them the milk and bread. They don't need to pay, but the transaction has happened offline, but there's a trust factor as well, and there's a peace of mind as well from a customer point of view. A lot of these pasta shops are also open almost 24/7 and over the weekend.
Yeah.
Banking hours, I don't know when last you went to the bank, but the 9 to 3 for somebody who wakes up at 4 in the morning
doesn't work.
To walk to work, who's working in a factory, working in a mine, they get home finally at 6. Even though they leave work at 4, they're finally at 6:37. Monday to Friday. By Saturday, when some of them trying to get to the bank, the queues are so long. And what we've physically done by listening to that customer need, we've said, actually, we're going to give you a convenient banking system. We're going to make you bank at your convenience. The same way you've got a banking app. I'm sure the same way you can bank and transact sitting right here. Yeah. We're now saying, why can't I have it if I'm the man in the blue overalls? Why can't I have it if I'm the man working in the mine, and women? Why can't I have it if I'm the nurse who's worked all night and woke up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and needs to send or receive money from a loved one?
Beware looking past the man in the blue overall or the lady with the big blanket on her, because you may be missing an opportunity. I think that's what's coming out in this discussion. We'll continue in just a moment. Don't go away. More with Audrey Mothupi right after the break. Stay tuned.